Your social media post may be to blame for the destruction of the habitat of one of the most well-known creatures in the Smokies. Rangers say people who move rocks to create art or change the landscape are actually affecting the hellbender salamander. They grow up to be 2 feet long. The hellbender is one of 30 species of salamander in the park.
10 News reporter Sean Franklin shows us why it's important to ensure that we preserve their habitat.
They're kind of home buddies.
Just under the rushing waters of the Great Smoky Mountains, the whole community thrives.
They find a rock that provides just the right amount of shelter, and that's their home base for years.
The hellbender salamander lives among all the other aquatic life around rocks and rivers and streams. When we touch the rocks, Park Ranger Paul Super says we're threatening their homes.
People got really upset with Godzilla when he went around stamping on houses or knocking the roofs off. It's the same idea.
Super says the rocks that hellbenders use can range from the size of a dinner plate on up to even larger. He says oftentimes people will take them from streams and rivers and actually make art out of it, which he says is not good.
They're called rock Karens, and you've probably seen them on your Instagram or Facebook feed.
People like to create dams or create a channel for zooming down in your inner tube, and all of that rock movement is not appropriate.
Super says the Smokies are a good place to see the salamanders and other wildlife, just not to move rocks.
Other places that are not preserving a natural area, and those might be really good places to have rock piles and cairns and that sort of thing.
He says you can check out some stunning wildlife by going snorkeling.
Look and see if you can see hellbenders if you're really lucky.
In the Great Smoky Mountains, Sean Franklin, 10 News.
The ranger says when added all together, salamanders most likely outweigh bears in the Smokies. They're a large part of the research conducted each and every day.
Part of our ecosystem. We're going to move to